Hello everybody, Bubblezest here, and this is Team Fortress 2. In today's video, I want to see if I can beat all 5 man-up tours in just 24 hours. Recently, this question has been on my mind. I thought it was possible, but I didn't know how it would go. So, I decided to find out. In case any of you didn't know, Man vs Machine is Team Fortress 2's PvE game mode, where you, along with 5 other team members, fight off a horde of robots, all while using the money that the robots drop to upgrade your weapons. The game mode is split between a free version and the paid version Man Up mode. And within that paid version, the missions are split up into 5 different tours, all with different difficulties. First up is Operation Oil Spill, the easiest, then Operation Steel Trap, the original, then Operation Mecha Engine, the one with Big Rock. Next up, Operation Two Cities, the meta tour since 2013. And finally, Operation Gear Grinder, the so-called hardest. But can I, a regular TF2 player, manage to complete all 5 tours and all 22 missions within a 24-hour time frame? Before I start, however, I think it's important I lay down some rules for this challenge. 1. I cannot ask my friends for help. I am friends with quite a few MVM enthusiasts, and to be honest, with their help, I could easily be carried through every single tour. But that's no fun. So the power of friendship is off the table. 2. I must try to play every class at some point. This should be easy enough, since the majority of classes do have a place in MVM. However, finding the right place for Sniper and Spy might be a problem, since their uses are much more niche compared to all other classes. And 3. Join missions in progress is allowed. I know some people might see this as cheating, but I don't care. Using join mission in progress is a coin flip. Maybe I'll join a game where the mission is already about to end, or maybe I'll join a group of no-hopers on wave 2. I don't know, but both are chances I'm willing to take. And with that, all the rules were in place, and at 6:30 PM on Friday the 18th of August, the challenge began. I decided to do Two Cities first, because I expected it to be the simplest of all the tours. Not the easiest, simplest. Since Two Cities is by far the most popular tour, with a well-established and well-understood meta, I think it was fair for me to assume that this would be the case. When I loaded into the first mission, it turned out to be Bavarian Bot Bash on wave 3, and I took Scout, who is basically my MVM main. I don't have a main in regular TF2, but for MVM, the fast Boston boy is my preference. His gameplay is almost entirely centered around getting the money that the robots drop. It's nice and easy with a lot of game impact. Now, was this game easy? Debatably. On wave 3, the giant heavy medic combo pushed us all the way back to the hatch. Fortunately though, we managed to kill the trio before they could cap, and luckily, that was the worst of it. From there, it was fine enough. Even managed to see the medic get tricked into getting stuck in the barrier, which is something I haven't seen someone do genuinely for years.
That was all you. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Pally. Attaboy.
And from there on out, the mission went by without any real problems. Sure, we didn't get the full bonus for every wave, but in the end, we won, which is all I really care for. And after just 28 minutes, mission 1 was down. Just 21 to go. Next mission was Metro Malice, and for this one, I took Medic. another class in MVM I'm rather fond of. And I was confident too. When I loaded in, it turned out we had 3 players with tour counts over 50. We had some low tourers, sure, but we had a damn solid core. Also I thought, first Byzantine Empire, one of the 3 high tours, left, and it was all downhill from there. The game quickly collapsed and it was time for another requeue. I loaded into another Metro Malice game, which fortunately did begin, although this time I was the veteran of the team by far. I had the most tours with 59, and the second highest was the demo with 11. But I thought, whatever, how bad could it be? Very, it turned out. We lost Gate A on the first wave. The engineer insisted on wrangling his sentry and placing it too far away from the robots. Amazingly though, we managed to not lose Gate B. However, due to our engine's performance, I asked him if he wanted to swap. He seemed okay with that, and I swapped. This did create a small class shuffle, but I didn't see anything worth complaining about. So, how did Wave 2 go? Badly. A Super Scout capped the bomb. I assume the Scout failed to milk him. The second attempt of the second wave was successful, however, despite another A gate cap. Wave 3 was even better. We lost gates A and B this time, but no cap. Wave 4 continued the trend of losing both gates, but managing to hold out. Wave 5, thankfully, broke this trend, with the robots only capping A and capping the bomb. And after that, we lost the Scout and Medic. I thought it was over. However, from the heavens, salvation appeared. Danny Fulp and Fat Tony came into the game. Danny was a high tourer with 250 tours under his belt, and Tony had a respectable 16. With a team like this, it finally all came together. From Wave 5 onwards, we didn't lose a single gate again, and easily finished the mission. Bot Bash had taken just 30 minutes. Metro Malice had taken an hour. You might be asking the question why I didn't abandon the mission when it was seemingly so bad. And to be frank, I don't have a solid answer. Maybe I just wanted to see what would happen. At last though, I thought I was back on track, and thus loaded into Hamlet. And well, I'll let it speak for itself. Maybe I could have waited it out, but after Metro, it's fair to say I wasn't prepared for that. Fortunately, the second attempt of Hamlet hostility was much more simple. I was medic for all but the last wave. It wasn't perfect, but there was nothing to worry over. Sure, we got pushed back a few times, I died a bit, but those things happen, and victory came regardless. Final mission ended up being on Empire Escalation, and I loaded in as Wave 2 started and I had to take Demo Man. I'll be honest, out of the main 7 MVM classes, Demo is probably my least played. I don't dislike playing him, it's just when given the option I'll take classes like Scout and NG first. But I'll be honest with you, this was my favourite game so far. The team was perfect, well coordinated, and I managed to do a load of one-shots on the giant robots. I'm going to run through a load of these now so you can see. I'm sure to some MVM players this isn't impressive, but to me, they are great. And so, we got to the end of tour drops. I got 6 and 3. Got a Killstreak Highlander, Spec KS Splendid Screen, and a Pro KS Vitasaur. Oh well, 2 out of 3 isn't bad. And thus, with a time of 2 hours and 48 minutes, 2 cities was done. Time for the next tour. It was now time to do oil spill, and I was rather excited for it. I had recently done an oil spill run and had a good time, so I was hoping something like that would happen again. First mission was Quarry, and I took NG. This tour is known for mostly having new players attempt it, and this time was no exception, as I was the only player having more than one tour completed. But that's okay. This tour isn't called intermediate for nothing. It's real easy. That being said, however, I did ask if our pyro was using the gas passer. He was not, so I asked him to change to it, and he did so. I think now would be a good opportunity to talk about MVM players' relationship with the gas passer. As many of you will know, many high tour players outright discourage using it, as many see it as too easy and a crutch that gives Pyro more points that he might not have gotten otherwise. So, where do I stand on this issue? Simple. I do understand why the gas passer can get the reaction that it does, but this doesn't mean I am rigid and will stick to the meta at all times. In tours and missions like Oil Spill that are really easy to carry thanks to the gas passer, I am fully prepared to use it to ensure victory. And even then, you still need the rest of the team's support to do so. It's not a perfect use this and win button, you know? Anyway, apart from that, the mission was as well oiled as you like. We didn't even have a scout, but ultimately it didn't matter at all, and victory was achieved after just 25 minutes. After getting into the queue for the next mission, an annoying little fact came up. That being Oil Spill, due to it being the only tour without Australian drops, isn't played that much, so you'll end up queuing for a good while. Fortunately, this is a situation I am fully familiar with, and I knew what I was going to do to fill the time. Playing Dust Bowl. I didn't do too much while I was there, but I did have one pretty sweet moment if I don't say so myself. And after 5 minutes, the queue fired and it was time to return to duty. Then, my game crashed. Nevertheless, after restarting, I loaded into Mean Machines and took Sniper. I didn't know if another opportunity to play Sniper would come up, so now felt like the right time. I will be the first to admit, I am not the best sniper. Throughout the mission, I missed some of the easiest shots ever. But luckily, I wasn't going to be carrying this mission alone, as I was surprisingly joined by 2 other high oil spill tourers. Keener, our heavy, and Glencore, our medic, had 8 and 31 tours respectively. To give some perspective, Glencore is 72nd on the all-time list of oil spill tours completed. So, needless to say, I felt like we were in good company. True to expectations, the mission was fine. Although, embarrassingly on my end, after saying GG near the end of wave 6, my bad aim let a scout cap. Literally, we were on the last bot, but I didn't do enough damage to him. Believe me, the rest of the team didn't let me forget that one. After that, failure, we quickly went round again and put that mistake behind us. For the following mission, Mean Machines, I decided it was finally time to take Spy. I knew that I wasn't a good enough spy for later tours, so now might be my best chance I had left. And thanks to two old friends, it was. Hina and Glencore made their second appearance in as many missions, and they were okay with a spy. We also had our first appearance of a squad surplus, as the Demo Man had one. For those of you who are unaware, the surplus is an additional ticket you can buy in the Manco store, which will give an additional drop upon wave completion. It's not really good since you'll mostly get standard drops, but sometimes you can get an additional hat drop. And despite my inexperience with MVM Spy, this mission flew by uneventfully, with no last second cap this time. And for my end of mission drop, I got a Uclanker. Sure, not the first time I've gotten it, but it's neat regardless. Following an 18 minute stay on Pier, the tour continued with another visit to Decoy with Doe's Doom. It was also time for me to play Pyro for a whole mission and maybe carry this team to victory. As it turned out though, our biggest problem this time wasn't the robots, but our engineer, who straight up refused to place his dispenser in a place where the team could actually use it. He basically had it all to himself. Great. So, I made sure I bought upgrades like health on kill and ammo canteens to make up for his selfishness. The engineer's situation got so bad that on wave 5, our heavy switched to NG2 so he could provide a dispenser closer to the front line. This aside, the mission yet again went by without a sign of a cap. After a surprisingly short wait, the next mission, Cave In on Coal Town, began, and I once more took Engineer. Infuriatingly though, we lost on wave 1 to a scout cap, which almost happened again on the following attempt. Wave 2 was actually done in one attempt. Following that though was our first attempt at wave 3, which to me is probably the wave I see teams fail the most, as it has a lot of quick fix medics. And yeah, big surprise, we lost quickly, despite having both a Pyro and Demo. So, I had to do something. Therefore, I went Pyro again with the gas, which did ultimately win us the wave. Wave 4 also required 2 attempts, as on the first, the tank capped, so of course the flog itself had to come out to play, which solved that little issue. From there, it was back to stock, which combined with the gas should have carried us through to the end of the mission. It didn't, as our first attempt of wave 6 failed. And out of nowhere, we got a spy, who refused to communicate or change class. To my own surprise though, that second attempt actually succeeded. From my point of view though, that was due to me resetting the bomb multiple times. Although I actually like doing that, and in any case, I cannot argue with a result. At this point, I got back into the queue and waited. And waited. And waited. And waited. After 53 minutes, I had finally had enough. It was 1:11 in the morning, and I had to call it a night. So, the first part of Oil Spill came to an end, as I went to sleep. I have to be honest with you guys, I had an awful night's sleep. At most, I got 2 hours of actual sleep. So, I was absolutely shattered going back into this. Regardless though, I still had a mission to complete, and thus back into the queue for Oil Spill I went. Mercifully, after just 3 minutes, I found a manhunt game that was already on wave 2. This yet again required a pyro, so I carried again. I don't have much to say, as like I said, I was just so tired. But the mercy continued as this mission only took 17 minutes. Yet again, it was time for an end of tour drop. Last time I did this tour, I got a Rust sticky bomb launcher. What would I get this time? A Rust scattergun. Yay! Again, though, I didn't have a strange one before, and now I do, which sorta did help soften that blow. After all was said and done, Oil Spill took 4 hours and 10 minutes of in-game time, nearly an hour more than it did last time, and ultimately took 9 hours when factoring in how long I slept. I decided that Steel Trap should be the next tour to take on. From the few times I've played it, it's easy enough and shouldn't take too long. Oh, how wrong I was. After 8 minutes, I loaded into Decoy and was greeted by a game with an idle medic and an engineer, with seemingly no one else joining. There was only one thing I could do: start the wave and hope for the best. Which went as well as you might anticipate. Following that failure, the NG left, and so I did too. But I realised, if that was the best Steel Trap game I could get, it didn't seem like there was much hope for completing it right there and then. Hence, I decided to move on to Mecha Engine. Compared to Steel Trap, my first Mecha Engine queue fired almost immediately, and yet again I was on my way to Decoy. Turns out, the game I got was already on wave 4, and they needed an engineer. And well, as you've already seen a few times, I consider myself an alright NG, so I happily took that job for myself. Just because we were on wave 4 doesn't mean we were going to breeze through the remaining waves. Far from it, as for both waves 4 and 5, we were pushed back to the hatch. Although on wave 5, a successful counterattack occurred and we managed to break out and do enough damage to the tank before it could drop the bomb. Wave 6 followed this trend as we encountered our first Mecha Engine boss, the Major Bomber himself. But despite being pushed back to the hatch, we managed to clutch it at the last moment. With that victory, 1/3 of Mecha Engine was already completed, only leaving the 2 Big Rock missions, both of which I wasn't looking forward to. Despite my apprehension, I still had to do these missions, and something surprising actually happened on the second mission. The mission we got was Broken Parts, the one I was least enthusiastic towards. In the past, I got stuck on this mission for literal months trying to complete a tour. However, years have passed since those days, and today, the team I got had someone who was up to the task. Ice XLD, our sniper, turned out to be one of the best MVM snipers I've ever come across, and I can't lie, he completely carried us through this 7-wave mission. All the rest of the team had to do was manage the tanks, as he could easily manage the small and large robots on his own. Some people might find being carried annoying. I am not one of them. Am I going to complain about one guy top scoring, doing a lot of the work? No. Why would I? This does mean that this segment on Broken Parts is going to be rather short, but for the sake of this challenge, it was a godsend. With 2 out of 3 missions done, it was already time to move on to the final mission, Bone Shaker, and I finally took Soldier. I'm surprised he took so long to play, but then again, he isn't the best class to carry a mission in this game mode, so it made sense to me. However, I did not play Soldier long, because after a successful wave 1, I realised we didn't have someone who could deal with medic bots, and so I had to change to Sniper and begin my tribute act to Ice XLD. It also turned out that our 6th player who joined late decided to be Spy, and since the rest of the team was fine with it, I just had to roll with it. But even worse, our medic had to go AFK to do his laundry. Yet again, we could have waited, but that's boring, so we started the wave anyway. And for like the umpteenth time, we were pushed back to the hatch, but managed to hold out. For Wave 3, we had an entirely different problem. Super Scouts. Multiple times, these supers managed to slip through our defences and run towards the cap, and it was only due to our scouts using the shortstop and crit did the team manage to not end up having to restart the wave. And thankfully, during this wave, the medic finally came back. I wonder how he felt seeing the team do so well without him. Despite my mediocre sniping, we managed to make steady progress. Waves 4 and 5 flew by even if we were spread thin. However, because I was a sniper, it worked out. I focused on the bots, while the rest of the team focused on tanks and the like. By wave 6 though, this streak finally broke and the Giants crit soldier and medic got a cap in. We couldn't do enough damage in time and the medic popped his quick fix. Luckily, the inevitable second attempt was so much better than the first, and we mostly held within the cave itself. Unfortunately, however, this was the last wave we had our spy, as he suddenly left without warning. So, who would replace him? Well, it turned out to be a small migraine, as we ended up with a second engineer. The entire team tried to reason with him and get him to switch, but to no avail. However, since wave 7 of this mission is basically the last real wave because wave 8 is just a boss fight, it worked out better than expected, and we didn't even break a sweat. There was some good sniping on my end and some good focusing on the tank by the rest of the team. Teamwork at its finest right there. And so, for the final boss, 3 of us went heavy, bought crits, and this giant didn't even make it out of the cave. But we still had the end of tour loot to do, and for this mission only, I had activated a squad surplus, which I had bought back when I got the tickets to do this. I thought, why not, could be funny. And as it turned out, we would actually be dealing with 2 squad surpluses, as Potato, our original heavy, also had one. I wonder if that turned out to be my good luck charm, as I got a gold bot killer wrench as my end of tour drop. It's only worth 1 key, sure, but I don't mind. It's a great memento to remember this challenge with. With that mecha engine, the tour I dreaded the most was completed in just an hour and 50 minutes, and I think it was the best tour so far. Definitely not the easiest, but the fights were mostly fair, and we overcame them on our own, even if we did have some support along the way. Yep, I decided to go right back to this tour. Since it's the longest left, I thought it was best to at least get some missions in, and after just 7 minutes, the first real mission of the tour began, with CPU Slaughter. This mission turned out to be a stock standard gas passer carry, with the only real thing of note being a reflect kill on an Uber medic. But hey, it was cool enough. It seemed like I was on a roll as the second mission only took 3 minutes to be found, and for the second time in succession, it was Coal Town with Control Alt Destruction. You might think that yet again this would end up being me doing a gas passer carry, but not this time, as the Boston boy himself made his return. And I must admit, this mission was pretty good. I think the highlight of it was in fact Big Boss, our demo man, who was actually running demo nights. He wasn't the top scorer on the team, no, but he put on a good show in spite of it. To my surprise though, this was also the second mission with 2 squad surpluses, as Big Boss and our heavy both had some. Was it a good luck charm this mission? I suppose, since I got a Robro 3000 as a drop. Then again, it wasn't a surplus drop, but a regular one. For the third mission of this 6 mission tour, I was deployed to data deletion on Decoy, which started off brilliantly. Our pyro ate my mad milk, which resulted in a super scout capping near the end of the first wave. And once again, we had an engineer who placed his buildings much too far behind the line. But, unlike last time, Glenn, the Engie, actually listened to us and moved his buildings forward after we asked him to. By wave 2 though, I realised we only had 5 players, and the 6th didn't seem to be choosing a class. It had been more than enough time for him to choose, or say he's BRB, or anything really. So the team decided the right move was to throw him out. He was ultimately replaced by Medemedes as a second heavy. I think the funniest thing that happened during this mission was our Engie and Pyro's relationship with the Sentry Buster. Glenn could manage it fine enough, but that's not to say he didn't have his moments.
It's chasing me!
The Pyro, on the other hand, seemed to want to help the engineer, regardless of where his team was in relation to the Buster, as multiple times as the Buster began to detonate, the Pyro would reflect the Buster into the rest of the team. I probably should have told him to knock it off, but I must testify, I found it funny, so I stayed silent. Reflectomaniacs aside, this mission was another one that went down easily enough. And then I started waiting. And waiting. And waiting. Then I finally got a game. But it turned out to be the exact same decoy game from hours ago. Still with the exact same idle medic. So I immediately bounced. But I took it as a sign to move on from Steel Trap again and begin grinding Gear Grinder. I think I should let the first 40 minutes of Gear Grinder speak for itself, as all of them followed a common theme.
Hurry, get to an upgrade station. Get to an upgrade station before they return. If they deploy the bomb, win. Get to an upgrade station and prepare for the next wave. They're deploying the bomb. You've lost the wave. The tire burn. Now, head to an upgrade station.
Yep, it was 40 minutes of complete failure on every single mission. By then, it was past 11 o'clock, I was hungry, and so I decided to break for lunch. I could have gone back to Steel Trap, but I wanted to finish Gear Grinder there and then. Therefore, I dived right back into the queue. By the time I loaded into Manslaughter on Manworks, most of the team was there, and so I took Soldier. However, that was not what the team wanted, and they asked me to switch to Putis, which I did. I am completely out of the loop for GG's meta, so I was prepared to go with what the team needed. Also, as it turned out, we had 2 ridiculously high Tauras for this mission. Bros Brawl 420 with 808 completed, and Grinch with 401. Surprisingly though, they weren't the most memorable players from this tour, as 2 other players took the limelight. Get familiar with these 2 players, as they will feature for the rest of this tour. First up is Super Furry Hunter, a 7-tourer who only played Scout. He talked quite a bit, but to be fair, he knew his stuff and played a good Scout. Next up is Winner. He, at the start, had 0 GG missions under his belt, and he took Medic for manslaughter and NG for the rest. Despite his seeming lack of experience, he did literally everything we could have expected of him, and did it well. And finally, there is me, who only had 2 tours under his belt. Accordingly, I ended up as heavy for the entire tour. But he is a nice and simple class to play, so there is that upside. With these 3 players, we had half of a dream team. A solid core that would, spoilers, end up working through the entire tour together. To no one's surprise then, the first mission was an absolute breeze, though I did get to see something that I've never seen before. On wave 3, Brosbrawl, who was Pyro, disconnected. I thought he quit, but no, what he'd actually done was retry in the console, which allowed him to switch class mid-mission and go back to Sniper. That was really clever actually, and something I might use myself in the future. Apart from that, it was bullet spam and making sure that the NG was safe from spies until mission's end. Although, there was one more surprise for us, as Brosbrawl actually got an Aussie flamethrower as his end of tour drop. Am I jealous? Of course, who doesn't want an Aussie drop? Mission 2, Desperation, followed the previous one's trend almost to the letter, apart from having to ask Winner to move his sentry back so that our sniper could kill the medics before his sentry could pop them. However, that's forgivable. Winner was brand new to this tour. On any other decoy mission, he would have had it in a good spot. Speaking of learning, on wave 4, our scout learnt something new. The gospel of Bushwhacker Cleaner's Carbine tank shredding. Both me and the sniper knew that all he had to do was to be enlightened. And by wave 5, he was a devout believer in the scripture. The biggest issue though did come about on wave 6 as the NG went AFK to get some food. Since this wave only had 28 robots, we decided to press on and hope for the best. We couldn't do it though, and we failed on the second heavy medic pair. So, the sniper went spy to deal with the giant medic bots, and once more we started without the engineer. I've lost count how many times we've got pushed back to the hatch, but with the combination of the spy and us heavies getting crit canteens, we tore those giants apart. And thankfully, by the end, the engineer made his return, although he didn't do anything that wave. With the team as one unit again, the final waves melted apart, and it was time to return to Coal Town and avenge the 40 minutes of failure. There is only one way I can describe Cataclysm. Doing plus attack in the console. As I did that command multiple times and just let the game do the work. Needless to say, this mission with this team was one where it just worked. We even had a team of 2 heavies and 2 snipers for the polarity of the waves, with one of the snipers briefly changing to spy to deal with the giant medics before joining us as the 3rd heavy for the last wave. With everything being like that, my 3rd Gear Grinder tour quickly came to an end, and I got my 2nd special bot killer drop of the challenge, with a diamond scattergun. Unfortunately, it's only worth something like 22 refined, and it's my 2nd scattergun drop so far. Regardless, it's another really cool drop. The rest of the half dream team only got carbonados though, which was a shame. They all deserved diamonds or Aussies. In the end, GG took 2.5 hours of in-game time, including the fails. Not great. But for the so-called hardest tour, it's about what I expected it to be. And here we are, back to Steel Trap for the final stretch, the final 3 missions. With no time to waste, I immediately jumped back into it and landed at Decoy with disc deletion, and was surprised by the return of 2 old friends. Keener and Glencore, yes, the very same two from yesterday on Oil Spill, made their returns. I wonder if they were doing this challenge too, as they were clearly in some sort of a hurry, as by wave 7 they decided to kick the heavy for not F4ing fast enough, which in my opinion was far too harsh, as the heavy had done a fine enough job so far, and we hadn't failed a wave yet. But majority rules and he was thrown out. I said nothing and voted yes, which I regret. Speaking of which, this mission ended after 22 minutes and 51 seconds, which would place us last on the speedrun.com leaderboard for this mission. The 5th mission turned out to be the endurance mission Mech Mutilation, so I continued my streak of being Scout. We did actually have a pyro for this mission, but for the first time in this whole challenge, he didn't have a gas passer. I did attempt a trade to give him one, but the trade didn't seemingly go through until mission's end. However, it didn't really matter, as we had a spy, so I guess the gas really didn't need to be used this time. Despite this being the endurance mission, in my opinion, this one lasted no longer than any other one does. And thus, it was time to move on to the final mission of this entire challenge. Machine Massacre. And for one final time, I loaded into a mission in progress and decided to take Gas Pyro to carry the mission. I can't imagine why the original 6th member left the team, as this one was solid. The only real issue was teaching the medic how to use the shield. In all fairness though, I had no idea either how to use it when I first started playing MVM, therefore telling him how to do it wasn't really a problem. Thus, the mission slowly but surely reached its conclusion. I also recorded my live reaction to the end of the tour, so let's see how it all came to an end. I mean, if we lose now, we've somehow messed up, and I will take full responsibility for that. My tank was the one with not much damage. Oh. Right, that's it. That's my last crit canteen. And out of ammo, and done. Come on. Come on. At the end, what am I gonna get? Entry gets a wrench, a silver one, poor guy. Medic mech bag, neat. Standard loot, isn't it? Oh, that's nice, well done. Me? All of that for a strange bot killer flamethrower. But that's time. 4:01 PM, around, I want to say 21 and a half hours after I started. Finally. And that, as we say, was that. After 21 and a half hours, the challenge was at last concluded. And therefore, I can finally answer my main question. Is it possible for me to beat all 5 man-up tours within 24 hours? Yes, it is. Should you attempt this though? Personally, it depends on who you are. As for one, I am experienced enough to know what I am doing and to carry when needed. If you are capable and do it at the right time of week, you too should be able to pull this off. Just make sure you get enough sleep. Don't make my mistake. Is there any big lesson to take away from this? To be honest, I'm not sure. I definitely didn't make a profit from this, nor did I have the best time doing so. But I did see and learn things that I wouldn't have otherwise, which in its own little way does have value. So, until next time everybody, I thank you for watching, I do hope you've enjoyed it, and until we meet again, from me, Bubbles Zest, goodbye.